Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. So, I've finally gotten sick enough of lawn mowing next door that I'm no longer brewing with it. Instead, I decided to go back into the tank and see what was waiting for me, and I was delighted to find a request for one of my favorite archetypes of all time, Gusto. Now, the linked comment references something about Gusto's unique way of winning games, so I believe what I'm supposed to be playing is my very favorite build of the deck, which is Sphreez Turbo. Now, for those of you who don't know, Gusto Sphreez is a 6-star synchro monster with a very, very unique effect that facilitates some very, very unintuitive play. So let's jump into deck edit and I'll walk you through what the deck is trying to do. So this is the list I came up with. Now, as you can see, we're playing a bunch of different cards in the 40, but before I really talk about main deck card choices, I want to talk to you about what the deck is trying to do. So, Gusto Sphreez is the hallmark card of this deck, a 6-star synchro monster that has to be made with a non-tuner Gusto and a tuner, and when she's synchro summoned, you get a Gusto from your graveyard to your hand, which about 99% of the time will be Pekilia. After that, she can't be destroyed by battle, and your opponent takes damage from all Gusto battles that occur. So what you're trying to do is make us freeze as fast as possible, then normal summon a Guldo in attack mode. Now let's say, for example, hypothetically, your opponent has a Blue Eyes on their side of the field. Doesn't seem too unreasonable given the state of today's meta. You summon Sphreez, then Guldo in attack mode. Guldo attacks the Blue Eyes, your opponent takes 2,500 points of damage, you use Guldo's effect to special summon Eagle, who attacks the Blue Eyes, your opponent takes 2,800 points of damage, you use Eagle's effect to summon Pekilia, who can summon the Guldo back, Pekilia attacks the Blue Eyes, they take 2,000 points of damage, and Sphreez herself attacks the Blue Eyes, they take 1,000 point of damage. Now, if that isn't enough to kill them, you still have a Guldo and a Sphreez on your side of the field, and I actually, think you can probably go off from there with all these inclusions of monsters that special summon themselves. So let's talk about individual card choices. We have 3 copies of Bae herself, Winda, Priestess of Gusto. Not a very good card, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a little bit, biased in including this card in the list. However, her plus Guldo plus Eagle all get each other and set up this weird lock where your opponent has to attack like 9 times before they can get through to you, which is probably good enough. However, remember that since Winda requires your opponent to attack her, expecting your opponent to behave in a certain way makes her really weak. Next, we have the piece of legacy support release for this deck, Pekilia. Oh my god, she's so good. When she is normal or special, you get to target a wind tuner monster in your graveyard and special summon it. That means you can get your Guldos, your Eagles, even your Tri-Eyed Dice or Red-Eyed Dice. Then we have 3 Guldo. When he dies, you can get a level 2 or lower Gusto from your deck. That is the Eagle or the next card that we have, Kaumi, alongside Winda. Kaumi is a very slow card that has a flip effect that special summons a Gusto from your deck. The inclusion is because occasionally you get to that point in the combo, but you don't have any copies of Eagle left, and you don't really want to go into Winda because she has comparatively high attack, so you may not be able to finish your opponent off. Kaumi has 200, so he's a really good option for running into your opponent's monsters. Moreover, it's actually fine to just set him, because if he gets to flip, there is a really high percentage chance you're going to be able to win. 3 copies of Eagle. This one gets any level 4 or lower non-tuner Gusto from your deck when it's destroyed, and then that's all for our Gusto stuff. The rest is Speedroids. Now, because Gusto is kind of a weird combo deck that requires your opponent to do certain things in order for you to win, I figured I might as well have a pretty reliable backup plan. So I'm playing 3 Speedroid Terror Top, 3 Speedroid Takaton Borg, 2 Tri-Eyed Dice, and 1 Red-Eyed Dice. The Takaton Borgs are incredible in this deck. In fact, they're probably better than the Terratops are. However, I don't need to tell you how powerful all of these cards are. Because we're playing them all, and the tuners and stuff, we have a host of Wind-type synchros in here, along with a Trish, if we ever, get lucky enough to be able to summon Trish. We're then playing 2 Maxis, 1 Regeki, 1 1-for-1, 2 Twin Twisters, an E-Telly for our Pekilia, and 3 Creature Swap. This card is incredible. Because our Gustos get effects when they're destroyed and go to the graveyard, we get their effects even if our opponent controls them. We also have a Vanity's Emptiness, 3 Call of the Haunted in order to get back our power plays, 2 Solemn Notice, and 1 Solemn Warning. So with that, let's jump into the games and see what happens. So, as always, in our first match, we've drawn only the Speedroid half of our deck and none of the Gusto stuff. Our opponent is playing some kind of Dark Magician shenanigans. That's probably not very good for me if he draws Dark Magic Circle, but I'll just prevent him from doing that, and then I'll win the game. So this is actually the only game in which we get anything even remotely resembling the combo out, because he's silly enough to go in a Dark Paladin turn 1, which means that we're going to be able to do what we want. We draw into Gusto Eagle, and unfortunately we're going to have to attack in order to get anything good to happen. We're going to get Pekilia and then special summon Eagle back, then make Sphreez in our second main and get Pekilia back to our hand. We have a Vanity set, we have an Eagle in defense mode. I'm feeling pretty good about this. He attacks into Sphreez, I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. In a perfect world, what I would have done here is Regeki'd and then Twin Twistered so he couldn't negate it with Paladin, but I Twin Twister first expecting a Battle Trap, then I figure, well, you know, if it's only one Battle Trap, I'm still fine because I can Pekilia, getting back Triad dice, and then go into Totem Bird. So I decide to start pushing in for the beats, and wouldn't you know it, there's Mirror Force. I'm going to negate it. He's going to take 27 here. I use Eagle to get Kaumi, attack with Kaumi, and he flips Eternal Soul. I'm like, well, that's not a problem. You're still going to take a lot. And then he flips double magical arm bind. I had no idea what this card even did. Like, jeez Louise. So that's going to get my Totem Bird and my Diagustos Sphreez. I'm like, well, I guess I will just pass back. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing here. He's going to try and special summon a Dark Magician. I figure I'm going to kill him on the next turn, so I might as well just flip my Vanities here. Then I forget that Eternal Soul can actually activate on my turn. So he gets back Dark Magician. I'm like, well, I guess I can do 100 to him. In main phase 2, I will make Speedroid Terratop to get Triad dice, just to A, thin my deck, and B, I like having Triad dice, like, around, because its negation of attack effect is pretty important. I'm going to Regeki as well. You know, always read the cards you are playing against. Eternal Soul prevents your Dark Magicians from being affected by any card effects, that is spells and monsters, as you will shortly see as I make the mistake of banishing Triad dice from my graveyard to try and prevent its destruction. So I draw Kaumi. I'm like, okay, this might be all right. Let's go ahead and attack for 2,300, and then we'll attack for another 5. This is close to lethal, at least. So basically, any top deck is live at this point. He's going to flip his guy to defense mode. I draw a 1-for-1, and I'm like, that represents lethal. Let me just go get Eagle, and he ends the game. So our second match is against a deck that is becoming ever popular on ladder, that is Predaplants, or Predaplants, or whatever the hell they're called. We've opened okay. We have a Kami, so we're just going to go ahead and set that and hope that it lives. He's going to lead off with a Lone Fire Blossom. I see that and go, I've been here before. We're not letting that resolve. Let's go ahead and Solemn Strike that as soon as possible. So now that we have a Kami, I have a decision to make. Now, of course, I cannot make Sphreez here because there's nothing really to attack into. I can make Sphreez, but what does that really do, you know? So I figure I have a Terratop, I have a bunch of tuners in hand. I can probably do something a little bit better. So I'm going to send the tuner and the Kami away in order to make Diagusto Guldos, and then I'm going to use Takatomborg to get Triad dice and make Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. So I figure Synchro Dragon is probably my best bet on an empty board. I also get to set this Eagle, which means I have at least a little bit of a backup plan. He's going to go ahead and do this Sundew Kigai effect. I figure he's going into Rafflesia, and I'm like, okay, I'll hold off on the negation then. Instead, he goes into Greedy Venom Starve Dragon because I guess he's just playing a copy of the Dark Creator. So he's going to lead with Greedy Venom Star Fusion Dragon. I'm going to go ahead and negate that. He's going to use the effect to destroy as many of my monsters as possible and then attack me. Now, I have a Call of the Haunted set, but I decide not to go for it to try and tempo him out in case he had like some sort of monster destruction. On my turn, I'm going to just go ahead and attack because Crystal Wing is a busted-ass card, and then negate his effect once it goes to the graveyard. Then I will beat up his Sundew Kigai with my attack position Gusto Guldo. Now, he's feeling pretty good, probably, because he still has a Lone Fire Blossom, which he's going to use here. I figure that's as important as anything else to negate. He doesn't have a way to really special summon anything good from the fusion deck, so I get to attack in for lethal. So this one is a bleeder. We're playing against ABC, and our opponent is Bricked into the Sun. We've drawn some stuff, including a Kaumi, Hope of Gusto. For the early game, I figured I'd just let him summon creatures because, you know, I figure as long as he's not making Buster Dragons, I'm kind of in the clear. I'm going to try and grind him out with this whole Guldo play. I can make some Sphreez, so I'll do that now and then add this Pekilia back to my hand. Now, as long as he's not making boss creatures, I figure I might as well continue to make Sphreezes and get Pekilias back, sort of grind him out of an advantage game. But here's the Regeki, here's the first Dragon Buster, that gets Solemn noticed, and at this point, I figured this Sphreez play is probably the best thing I can do. I'm going to make a second one, be able to do a little bit of damage to my opponent this turn, which is nice, alongside getting this Peculia back to my hand to enable future plays. In the meantime, he's just using all the ABC effects and adding them back to his hand. Really very fun. Then he draws a Burial from the different dimension off the top, and I'm like, oh god, here we go. I guess I'll max C now so I can at least draw off this Dragon Buster he's going to make. He attaches Assault Core to Dragon Buster, which is rough, and then fails to read my card, which means that he will take 1,000 damage. We're in a rough spot now because we don't really have an out to this card. I figure I can do a little bit of damage here, but he, rightfully so, realizes that Sphreez is priority target number 1. I'm going to go into a high-speed Roid Dharma and burn him for 500. At this point, I'm just trying to get him in range for Nightmare Shark, which is now my play. He's banishing my creatures every turn, but not the ones that recur themselves, so I'm always going to be able to accrue advantage out of this. I go ahead and set this Tri-Eyed Dice. I figure getting Tri-Eyed Dice in Graveyard is probably about the best I can hope for at this point. Getting this Peculia back, which will give me back a Goldo. You can see right there I banished Tri-Eyed Dice, forgetting to read a Assault Core. Here I sink these two into Hagoida. The idea here is I figure my only out to this scenario that doesn't end in Nightmare Shark probably ends in Clear, Crystal, Man, Synchro, Dragon, Buster, Blaster, and the way I make that is making High-Speed Roid Hagoida and then letting my entire field die, special summoning it back, and using Red-Eyed Dice in order to facilitate that play. However, the allure of constantly plussing off of these Gustos is just a little bit too much. When he goes to banish it, I'm going to sack it so it's not in the banish zone. He makes a second Dragon Buster, and I figure, well, it may be just about time for me to set up this Hagoida play. I decide not to this turn because I still have a bunch of blockers left in my deck I'd like to get rid of. Then I realize after I draw Takatomborg, I actually have a way to make Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon without having to do Hagoida. I can go ahead and make a Clear Wing Synchro Dragon by making Tri-Eyed Dice make Takatomborg a 4, and then sink Clear Wing and Speed Roid into Crystal Wing. So I do that, then I'm going to go ahead and attack in for 3,000. That's neat. That's pretty good. He's going to go ahead and destroy my Peculia and set this card. Now, at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. I think, oh, I can just go ahead and E-Telly back my Peculia from my deck and then be able to push for lethal or make a good synchro or something. Unfortunately, I don't have any left, so I'm going to have to be happy with a Winda. And more unfortunately, I can't destroy this gold gadget. It has too much attack, so I'll just sit for now. He draws another Union Hanger, which is pretty good for him because it means he can go into Utopia the Lightning, one of the very few outs to this card because its effect activates in a way that I can't interact with. So thankfully, I'm going to go ahead and draw a Gusto Tuner, which allows me to go into Guldos, which allows me to use Guldos' effect to destroy his only monster and get in for game. So, we're back with the deck. I thought this deck was okay, but not great. The Sphreez play, where you just, like, attack into their big monsters, seems a lot better if you can ensure your opponent is playing a deck with big monsters in it, like Blue Eyes, or a deck with monsters that don't protect themselves or have the ability to tag out at instant speed. Just seems like there's a lot that's not going for this archetype. I tried one with Kaijus in order to sort of make sure my opponent always had a big dumb guy I could crash into, but that turned out to not be very good because the Kaijus were very cloggy. I think this is one of the better builds of the deck. I just think it's possible that playing an archetype that relies on your opponent to act or behave in a certain way just isn't very good. Even in like the Dark Magician game where my opponent was on the Eye of Timaeus, he caught on very quickly to what I was trying to do and started summoning monsters in defense mode, making sure he could mitigate damage that way, leaving things like Winda on your opponent's side of the field instead of destroying them. There's just a lot of ways to screw up this deck, and as soon as your opponent catches on, I think you're pretty much donezo. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed watching another Winda waifu deck list. I hope you enjoyed watching another deck where I try to convince myself not to just go into Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon at every opportunity I have. And most of all, I hope you just enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give me a like, a comment, or a subscribe. It really helps me out. And if you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday from 9:30 a.m. to noon Eastern Standard Time. Links are in the description. Finally, if you want to see me play a certain deck or archetype on a future episode of this show, let me know in the comment section below and I will do my best to accommodate you. Otherwise, I will see you Friday.